After the events of the last 2 years, many organisations are trying to get back to a state of what they would regard as normal. And for what many that means is a return to pre-COVID ways of working and ways of operating. But these organisations are really struggling because staff have had a taste of working from home. They've had a taste of the balance of choice and empowerment that this flexible working model will enable for them, and they want more. But this is in spite of the fact that many organisations have been advocating for flexible working and even gone to the extent of equipping their buildings for activity-based models and giving staff the empowerment and flexibility that that offers. But they're still struggling with their approach. So in this talk today, I'm going to talk about the options that organisations have, a few of the challenges along the way, and just give some thoughts on how organisations can navigate this dichotomy of working from home, working in the office. So many organisations are struggling to try and work out what their new operating model and their new way of working is actually going to be in the post-COVID world. Change has accelerated over the last 2 years as staff have been able to adopt the tools and techniques that allow them to work flexibly, allow them to work from home in a number of different settings and in a number of different ways. But organisations haven't really been able to understand what that means for them and how they're going to build that into their way of working and the way that they're going to operate going forward. Now, this is in spite of the fact that most organisations have been starting to move to this activity-based model for a number of years now. Activity-based working as a concept has been around since 1994, and a lot of organisations have equipped their buildings. We've seen these collaborative spaces, we've seen the specialist furniture and things like that start to optimise workspaces for the activity that's actually going to be conducted in them. The concept behind activity-based working is really that you understand the activities you're trying to do and you design your workspaces around to optimize those activities and actually make it intuitive on what those spaces are for to make them productive. So even when it comes down to areas like kitchen areas where people are going to make coffee or those sorts of things, you actually design those spaces that it's not just about making a drink, it's perhaps where people can have a conversation, they can touch base with colleagues, they can actually find out what's going on in their organisation, and a number of other different activities could go on in those spaces. But it starts to optimise your environment for those particular activities. Now, I think part of the struggle that we're having at the moment is although organisations have been going down this path for a number of years now, a lot of them really haven't embrace the concepts that activity-based working actually bring to the table. So for example, although all buildings may be equipped for an activity-based model, we still see a one person, one desk philosophy going on, that everybody has a desk available to them. But equally then we've still got collaborative spaces, we've still got meeting rooms, we've still got all those other areas as well. And in a lot of cases, we're actually seeing occupancy rates well below the sort of 70 to 80% threshold, which means there's a lot of real estate and a lot of the benefit of activity-based working really isn't being realised by these organisations. And I think because of that, as we've brought in this new model of working from home, organisations aren't coping because they haven't quite realised what flexible working actually means. What it really means is that monitoring productivity and monitoring employee performance by looking at whether they're set at the desk doesn't work. It is very much about the activities and productivity based on the output that they're trying to drive. But because organisations haven't quite understood that, they're struggling to bring in this new model as well. But the concepts of activity-based working, when we extend it beyond the bounds of our building and our current office accommodation, gives us a great model to start to think about working from home and actually how we can then incorporate that into our ways of working as an organisation. Because the reality is, working from home isn't the perfect location for everything. There are a number of activities that people do on a day-to-day basis where actually working from home and trying to do things via video conference and those other mechanisms while you might be able to accomplish it in the short term, it actually isn't the best long-term solution for that problem. A recent study that Microsoft have carried out has actually found that actually skills transfer and personal development is actually being detrimentally impacted by the work from home philosophy, because the ad hoc skills transfer that you would normally occur within an office environment as you're chatting to colleagues, as you're overhearing anecdotal information, as you're able to just ask somebody a question next to you, doesn't occur. And similarly, I think we're finding that the relationship aspects of work that you would normally see, bumping into people in the kitchen as they're getting a drink, saying hello in the stairwell or the elevator, doesn't work. I've spoken to a number of chief executives, and their work style is actually asking people questions and talking as they're walking around their building on a day-to-day basis. It's not necessarily picking up the phone, it's actually ad hoc relationship interactions as they go around their daily life. Now, in a working from home environment, that doesn't work. So it doesn't really matter whether the chief executive's in the office. If those people that they bump into and they talk to aren't in the office, that can't occur. So trying to balance this out is quite important. Now, activity-based working as a concept, actually you think about what is the activity that I'm trying to accomplish and what is the best location. And the best location is actually the important concept here, because it's not just about whether staff think it's possible to carry out that task in that location. Is it the right environment? So back to that old adage, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So just because you can accomplish something working from home doesn't necessarily mean that you should. But an approach to engage with staff to actually work through what is the activities that they do on a day-to-day basis and what is the best location to accomplish those activities. And that's a really great personal analysis and task engagement sort of philosophy as well within the group, because it gives you an opportunity to bring staff together to really think and talk about the work that they do and how they do it. Because then you can start to also think about what are the different tools and technologies and equipment that I need to enable that task to be accomplished in the most optimum way. Because technology as part of this is quite an important component. Being able to connect the disconnected, whether that's the bridge between your virtual environment, your information environment to your physical environment, or between distributed staff in different locations, it all enables you to bring these things together. So understanding what activity you're doing and what equipment and data and technology you need to enable you to do that is quite an important concept. But working through that, you can then start to understand what are the activities my staff do and what is the right location for them. Now, unfortunately, what this means is actually not everything is appropriate to be done at home. So you're going to have this conversation with your staff about what are the right things that they are allowed to do at home, which is the right place for them, and what are the things that they actually need to start coming into the office for. But that enables a good conversation because you can engage staff, they can understand the why, and what is the aspect of that staff, what aspect of that activity that you're trying to do that actually you need to enhance in the way that you do it. Because I think one of the things we're seeing at the moment is where organisations are putting down this edict that they need to be in the office 1 or 2 days a week or 3 days a week. It's not really understanding why people need to be in the office for those days of a week. If it's actually about relationships and skill building, well, it's really frustrating when you get to the office and you find those people that you actually need to maintain the relationship aren't actually in the office that day. So you end up either going home or you end up having a less than optimum experience in the office. But as you work through this, you can actually start to understand what are the activities, who do I need to talk to, and what are the equipment I need, so that you can actually plan out your week so that you're in the office for the optimum time, you can have the experience, you can do the activities you need in the office, and then equally you can spend time at home in that environment doing the activities that you need to do at home. And that gives a very strong model then of how you're going to work and how staff are going to interact with that environment. But it does mean you have to have that conversation with staff that not everything is going to be done at home. You can't just say, I'm going to work from home for the entire week, because actually some of the things you need to do need to be in the office. But equally, managers need to understand that if the primary reason for coming into the office is skills transfer and relationships, they need to build activities that actually encourage and facilitate those different aspects of work. It's no good telling everybody to come into the office to build relationships if there's nobody there to build relationships with. So actually making conscious effort to design those activities is actually quite important in this transition. That's just some ideas on how organisations can navigate this and talk to staff around flexible working and incorporating their work from home strategy. Thank you very much for your time today. I hope you enjoyed the talk. Thank you.